Okay, so we are going to take our next step. We've talked about encoding, how we process that information, and so now we're going to talk about the process of storage, taking that info and putting it away somewhere and holding on to it for a period of time. So as part of this, we have pretty much a three-step process in storage of memory, kind of like a what gets stored, a decision maker um, that ties into what is held onto. So we'll talk about these three things: sensory, short-term, and long-term memory when we are looking at this. So let's start with sensory memory. So easy enough. Sensory memory is very, very short. Um, Basically, it is a small window of time where our different sensory or different senses pick up all of this information. So, sight, taste, touch, smell, blah, 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 blah. All of those things are picking up information all at the same time, all right now. So, this info is stored for a very short period of time, and it is very little of it is kept. And basically, we were relying on selective attention. Remember, selective attention is the focus, that thing that we are focusing on. That is going to tell us what information moves on into short-term memory. So sensory memory is you know like all of the things that you see every single day. What was the color of your mother's shirt when you saw her in the morning? What was um, the song that was playing on in the radio in the car that drove by next to you at the stop sign. Um, so we have all of this information that sensory information that comes in, and very quickly we lose most of it. And really, the only stuff that we hold on to are the things that we are focused on, the things that we are paying attention to. And the things that we are paying attention to, the things that we are focused on, are going to move into our short-term memory. Short-term memory is also known as a person's working memory. Generally speaking, a person's working or short-term memory holds anywhere between 5 to 9 items at once. So it holds on to 5 to 9 things for anywhere between 15 to 20 seconds. Okay, 15 to 20 seconds. So you're going to hold on to this information for a very short period of time. And the reason why it's called working memory is because of how quickly your brain is working through this and trying to figure out, is this relevant information that I'm going to hold on to for an extended period of time? So people that have this short term that are working through this short term memory are basically making decisions. Is this something that's important enough, or is this something that piques my interest enough for me to hold on to that bit of information? Generally speaking, you're only holding on to 5 to 9 items, and it's only good for about 15 to 20 seconds. So think of, I've used this example before where you um, introduce yourself to someone, you talk to them, and then you forget their name. Well, a big part of that stems from um, your inability or your focus changing to whatever story that is or whatever else that conversation goes, and you forgetting about that thing. So saying their name over and over again is a good way of solidifying that information. So let's give something a try. What we are going to do is an example of short-term memory, and let's test how well you guys can recollect something. So what I need you to do is I need you to pull out a scratch sheet of paper and something to write with, and you aren't going to do anything with it just yet. So what is going to happen is I am going to read to you a list of words. And what you are going to try to do is you are going to try to hold on to those list of words for as long as possible. Not as long as possible. You're going to try to hold on to it for 30 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you the list of words, and then we are going to take a 30-second pause. Once that pause is over, I will say, okay. And then what you are going to do is you are going to write down as many of those words or as many of the words as you can remember on your scratch sheet of paper. So go ahead, if you need to, pause this video and grab that scratch sheet of paper. I'm going to begin reading the list of words in 3 seconds. Okay? 1, 2, 3. Let's begin. Bed, quilt, dark, silence, fatigue, clock, snoring, night, toss, tired, night, artichoke, turn, night, rest, dream. 30 seconds. Okay, go ahead and write down as many of those as you can remember. I'll give you about 30 seconds in order to do this, and then we'll move forward. Never mind, you can just pause the video. All right, so let's test this. So let's see how you did. So check to see if you remembered and wrote down the word bed. What about the word quilt? What about the word rest? And what about the word dream? So what you'll see is that not everybody, but a lot of people will get those words written down. And the reason for that is a concept known as the serial position effect. And if you will remember, where were those words? The first word in the that I started with was bed, followed by quilt, and then rest and dream were at the very end. So the serial position effect states this. It is this idea that when you are recalling information, you are more likely to remember the stuff that happened at the end of the thing that you're trying to remember, and and you are also more likely to remember the stuff that happened at the beginning. Think about the last vacation you went on. What do you remember? Do you remember the stuff in the middle? Generally not so much. You oftentimes remember getting to the place that you were going. We went to Cancun or whatever, and then you oftentimes will remember leaving. But the stuff in the middle oftentimes gets jumbled up. Wait, which day did we go scuba diving? What was the day that we saw the sharks? What was the day that, we had the calamari or whatever? A lot of that stuff kind of gets mixed up and jumbled um, when trying to recall things. The stuff in the middle, we're less likely to remember stuff. Okay? So that's the serial position effect. Now, what about the word artichoke? How many of you wrote down the word artichoke? Okay, well, why? Well, the reason why is it's, as you are obviously shouting it into your computer, is it's different. The word artichoke just didn't make sense for what is going on. That's semantic distinctiveness. Things that are outside the normal are more likely to be remembered. If you've ever watched the TV show The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, at the very beginning of the show, not that I ever saw this, just this is an example being used. I've never seen it before. Just people have told me about it. Obviously, I wouldn't watch that show. Um, is you have the participants will do wacky and crazy stuff. There were examples of you know these are people that they're wanting to court or date in order for the opportunity to marry them, and they're coming in horse heads or doing stupid dance routines or dressing up really weird or whatever, doing crazy stuff in order to be remembered. This is semantic distinctiveness. Just something that is outside the ordinary is more likely to be remembered. Okay, now what about the word night? Okay, why was night recalled? Well, because I said it multiple times. And things that are rehearsed, things that are done over and over and over again, are more likely to be remembered. For any of you who practice an instrument or are in theater or dance or whatever, you have to do things over and over and over again. Does that help you remember stuff? Yes. So do that thing over and over and over again. It'll help you remember. Okay. Finally, how many of you wrote down the word um, sleep? How many of you wrote down the word sleep? Well, for those of you who did, I never said it. Go back. Listen to the blurb again. Sleep was never said. So why did you write it down? I didn't say it. Now, not everyone's going to do this, but this is what we call reconstructive memory. Our memories are not as solid as we would like them or believe them to be. Our memories are often influenced by outside sources, and we'll spend some time talking about that in our next video and when we talk about Elizabeth Loftus. But our memories aren't as solid as we would like them to be. Think of your um, think of your memory more like bullet points. So you have bullet points in your memory. You have point A, and you blah 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 blah, and you have point B, and then blah 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 blah, and then point C, blah 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 blah. But what ends up often happening is other things can be stuck into these middle parts, or things that we thought can be changed as we move along. And the reason for this is because our memories just aren't as solid as they used to be. And we'll in our next video we'll talk about Elizabeth Loftus and look at this idea of reconstructive memory. Um, yeah, so that's reconstructive memory. These are all like terms that you guys will need to be familiar with. So good work. All right, here we go. Next thing. So now we have long-term memory, close to being done. We got this 2 more slides left. So long-term memory um, is literally everything that you know how to do. Everything that you know is something that's stored in long-term memory. Um, long-term memory is basically an endless. We have an endless expanse of uh, information. No one has ever been like, oh, I can't remember anything new because I'm all filled up on my long-term memory. You could know so many things, like your aunt's birthday, or how big your feet are, or how to ride a bike, how to write your name backwards. All of that stuff is stored into long-term memory. All those things are things that you know how to do. Now, when we are looking at long-term memory, we can kind of break it up into 2 different parts. We have explicit, also known as declarative memory, and implicit or non-declarative memory. And it's right in the name. Just pay attention to what the name is saying. Explicit, declarative. I am declaring this thing, so I am saying it. So declarative memory is talking about things that um, we are consciously aware of. Think of this as like something that we have to state, like who's the president of the United States, um, what who is the former founder of Apple. Um, all of those things are explicit or declarative memory. How old are you? Those are things that you can declare, things that you can say. Memories of experiences that you have, that is a declarative or an explicit memory. Now, an implicit or a non declarative memory are things that you can't explain. This is memories that we aren't consciously aware of. So being able to walk, try to explain to someone how to walk, other than saying, we'll put one foot forward. There's way more going on to this. There's so much that muscles that your body is using in order to keep balance. There's a lot going on. So that those types of things, mostly muscle memory type stuff, that is non-declarative. Swallowing, sneezing. These are all things that your body knows how to do, and they're things that are stored away, but they're not things that we can declare or explain or whatever. These are things that you do. Okay, so that is storage, and in the next video we will move on to retrieval.